As a student of linguistics who grew up in the Midwest of the United States, but who now lives on the West Coast of the country instead, one subject within the field of sociolinguistics that's fascinating to me is regional dialects. There can be morphological variations and phonological variations between regional dialects, but what I'd like to talk about today is the semantic variations that can bubble up between them. For example, what's the generic term that you would use for the three soft drinks in front of me on this table? Now, this is a pre-recorded video, so I can't hear your response. But because most of you grew up in California, I'm going to guess that most of you would use the generic term soda for these three soft drinks. But in the part of Wisconsin where I grew up, we use the generic term pop. I say the part where I grew up because there's a soda part of Wisconsin as well. The eastern part of Wisconsin was settled by people from the east coast of the United States, where more than 80% of the population uses the generic term soda. However, I grew up in the western part of Wisconsin, where most of us said pop instead. Another semantic variation within my own home state was that the generic term that we in the western half of the state used for a drinking fountain was a water fountain. However, the folks in the eastern half of the state used the generic term bubbler instead. Somehow we managed, barely, to remain one state instead of two, despite these deeply divisive differences. Anyhow, back to the three soft drinks in front of me. While I was at least familiar with both the terms soda and pop, having grown up in a state where both those semantic variations exist, there's a third popular generic term in a different region of the United States. The first time I went into a restaurant in the South, I ordered a Coke, meaning a Coca-Cola. Imagine my confusion when the server asked, "Well, what kind of Coke do you want? We have Pepsi Coke." "Wait a second," I interrupted. "Pepsi Coke?" That's right. The generic term for a soft drink in the South is Coke, even when the soft drink is not manufactured by the Coca-Cola Company, even when it is in fact manufactured by the competing PepsiCo or Royal Crown International. And that is the sort of semantic variation that can bubble up between regional dialects. If you'd like to view a map that shows what generic term Americans use for soft drinks in which regions, I've included a link to one in the discussion that accompanies this video. Can you think of another example of semantic variation that occurs in the dialects spoken in California and in other states, or even within our own state?